Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. When Emerson Mnangagwa took over from Robert Mugabe following the 2017 military coup, he was cocksure he was going to revive the economy. He really believed he had what it takes to make Zimbabwe prosperous. He hit the ground running with his Zimbabwe open for business. I don't think he even doubted that there could be anything else other than economic success. He expected the investors to flood into the country and kick the nation's economy. It took him about 6 months to realize that the floodgate of investors was not coming in. And then another 6 months for him to come up with his own idea. Zimbabwe inovakwa nevene vayo. And he has pushed that idea so hard that the nation is being bombarded by all these reports of projects being commissioned, you name it. The reality is Zimbabwe's economy is actually in a mess. Corruption was bad during Mugabe's time, but it's even worse under Mnangagwa. All these projects that he is advertising and promoting, most of them, they are costing an arm and a leg, and others are more wishful thinking than reality. Here is a video clip that has been going the rounds in Zimbabwe's social media, where they are talking about how Zimbabwe's Vision 2030 is but a mirage.
My argument and dismiss this fake or rigged GDP of $52 billion, which I synonymize to putting $1 million in your Excel sheet and say I'm a millionaire. You pump your chest, but you're very poor like a church mouse. So where we sit here is that in 2018, when the Minister of Finance assumed office as our Minister of Finance, poverty levels in terms of people who are in extreme poverty, it was 29% of the population in extreme poverty. Today, it's 49%. So you see now the challenge. If his economy was working, how do you relate a poverty level of people in extreme poverty hitting 49% up from 29% if the economy was functioning, because they're supposed to be absorbing people who are in poverty and have a better life. Now let's look at jobs, people in the informal sector. I want to stop there just for purpose of continuity. In 2019, about 76% of the population were employed in the informal sector. And in his National Development Strategy 1, the Minister of Finance set 70% by 2025 as the people who should be employed in the informal sector, which means he would have moved up 6% from the informal sector to formal sector through economic transformation, which means 30% of the population will be working in the formal sector. Now, where we sit, according to Zimstad's report, 87.7% of the population are working in the informal sector.
Then that is the reality.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. Last week, I was left in a state of disgust and shock. There was the pre-budget parliamentary discussions that were happening, and you know, Mr. Mtulingue says we have already achieved Vision 2030. Eh, That was it. We have been waiting for this Vision 2030 to see whether where the foundation is, where we are building to, and he's already saying we have already achieved this. This is the best that it will be. This is as good as it will get. Basically, that was what he was saying, and I'm like, with the figures that we are hearing, with everything that is going on. For example, the Zimbabwe government just owes, local, institutions such as, Beam for the children without the ability to go to school, uh, Zimsake, you know, the list is endless. They owe to a tune of over 1.6 billion US dollars. And this is not, RTGS. We owe locally 1.6 billion. And then Mr. Mtulingue says we have a surplus of 600 million, up from the 300 million that we had to back our dollar or our RTGS. And then, any fool can say, hold on, how can you say you have a surplus while you are just not servicing debt, local debt? I'm not talking about international, debt where we know it's over 2 billion as well. You the reason why you have anything in your pocket is because you are not paying what's owed to people. And now, to me, this explains what this gentleman is saying. You know, he sees what he wants to see, and yet everybody else cannot. It's a mirage. And I think that is the perfect word to put this whole Vision 2030 business. You know, we are never, any logical person or anybody that is willing to look at the facts and statistics on the ground will never be able to see Vision 2030 for what it is, because it's something that only exists in their heads.
Well, to just explain to those people who may not be aware of what this Vision 2030 is supposed to be. Vision 2030 is Zanu PF saying that Zimbabwe's GDP per capita would be that of an upper middle income nation by 2030. At the present moment, Zimbabwe's GDP per capita is 2,000 US dollars compared to that of, say, South Africa, which is 6,000 US dollars. per capita. Botswana is even better. It's 8,000 US dollars per capita. What Zimbabwe is saying is, and both South Africa and Botswana are considered to be an upper middle income nations. What Zanu PF is saying is they expect the country's GDP per capita to increase from 2,000 to 6,000 in the next 5 years. What is interesting here is Mnangagwa has already been in power for 8 years. And the GDP per capita of the country has not moved. And he expects us to believe that in the next 5 years, it will go up 3 times as much. This is just nonsense. It will not happen. And this is the reality in Zimbabwe. If anything at all, it will go down. Because what the gentlemen were talking about there is that the informal sector, the problem with that is that it does not generate much wealth. Most people in the informal sector, they live from hand to mouth. And this is why those living in abject poverty have increased from 29% to 49% since Mnangagwa took over. And that movement means the GDP per capita is falling, not increasing. And so this mirage of 2030 Zimbabwe becoming an upper middle income nation is a mirage in the sense that you will never get it. As you move closer to it, it seems to be moving further and further away because it's not there. It's imaginary. This is the problem we have in Zimbabwe.
I mean, when you see, big companies that we have, we were born to, such as, OK Zimbabwe, are actually closing shop. We know, for example, TM closed. They were there since forever. Jaggers wholesale, they closed because they could not compete with the informal, tuck shops that are springing up left, right, and center. Who, you really don't know where they are getting their products from, how, and even if they are actually even paying taxes. So once you have the informal sector, thriving at the rate at which it does in Zimbabwe, it really does not show, growth at at a national, level. You cannot measure it. If somebody is selling tomatoes, where they bought it, you don't know. How they bought it, you don't know. And how much they're even selling it, you would never even know. So one has to ask, if you're having the informal sector that is thriving, and yet this here sector really doesn't, give back and cannot be accounted for, are we really, able to measure our own, growth. Because I for one actually think that if you have an informal sector that is booming, actually crashing the formal sector. I mean, look, big companies like, Cisco Steel, Lancashire Steel, Steel Force, they have all closed down. We all have these, small little Chinese startups that are all over. And some are being said they don't even pay taxes. Some are not even, looking after their employers. There is no money. Actually, government also owes NASA, people's pension. Our Zimbabwe government has taken money from NASA, people's pensions, and has squandered it. Then the question now is that the foundation that would have been required for us to have an upper middle income economy? Is that the foundation that is supposed to house this Vision 2030? And the answer is obviously it's a no. Vision 2030 is only in their eyes and in their heads. And they want to sell us or to hammer this, uh, belief into our heads. Yet they themselves really know they don't have a foundation built for any of this, Vision 2030 to even grow or progress. It's all nonsense.
I'd like to give my closing remarks on this issue, on the way forward. As long as Zimbabwe remains a pariah state, ruled by corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical thugs who are in power only because they rig elections, the truth of the matter is the country is going nowhere. Some of these projects that Mnangagwa goes to town praising, in his State of the Nation address, he was very proud of Trababalas, traffic interchange. And yet when you sit down and look at it, you find the cost of that project was an arm and a leg to the nation. With the same amount of money, the nation could have built not only that interchange, but probably another 200, 300 kilometers of motorway with proper management. The two gentlemen in this program, one of the projects they talk about is also, for instance, the building of the dam. How one dam has costed 700 million US dollars. And yet when you look at the size of the dam, it doesn't make any sense at all. When you compare to other dam projects in other countries. So the issue, the most important issue here to remember is that Zimbabwe's economy will never revive as long as we have got a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical regime that is not accountable to the people. We need to cure ourselves of the curse of rigged elections and bad governance. And the cure, we've said it on this platform, and we'll say it again. Ideally, we want free, fair, and credible elections. We will not get free, fair, and credible elections in 2028 because no meaningful reforms have been implemented or are going to be implemented or can be implemented between now and then. What we can do in 2028 is make sure that we do not participate in our millions to give the regime legitimacy. This point must be hammered home again and again and again, because that is our only hope. Forget Vision 2030, it's a mirage. Even the regime itself is finding it impossible to sell something that is not even there. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
You know, the more you continue lying to yourself over and over and over again, you start to believe in your own lie. You get a real genuine conviction that what you are doing is the truth. And this is what I think Zanu PF is all about. They have been doing this for a very long time. And it has gotten to an extent where themselves and their members actually believe that Vision 2030 exists. Such, that whatever small little development that happens, it's Vision 2030. It's progress. No matter how foolish it is, no matter how absurd it is, like you're mentioning $200 million, dam, and then you find that dam could be the size of, a small little pond compared to what it could have actually built. The same thing with the Trababulas. You could have done so many things. I mean, we have seen the Bulawayo Victoria Falls Road, and that could have gone there and addressed, because look, this is tourism. That's one of the wonders of the world, and people travel to go there. That is, it sells Zimbabwe, and it shows the world who we are. If people arrive to potholes and dust roads on leading to a big wonder of the world, surely it's that's a picture they will take to say this is Zimbabwe, guys. And the only reason why they are fixing that road now is because there were white families that were taking themselves pictures in these big potholes the size of big ditches. So we have a problem that we have a Zanu PF that I think has lost its marbles. They really believe or want to believe that whatever they're doing is big, yet they are just a group of underachievers who will make noise for building a mud bakery. If we remember the likes of Opam Chikunguri, they commissioned a mud bakery. President Mnangagwa went to commission Kudzanai Public Terminus toilet. This just shows the people who we are dealing with. Very, very little ambition. So we've got a problem. And I like the way you addressed to say, we have to start looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the 2028 election. There's no reforms that can be implemented now, but we can turn things and turn our fortunes by not presenting Zanu PF with legitimacy. we should not participate in rigged elections. Once we participate in rigged elections, we are rubber stamping, Zanu PF's legitimacy and our continued suffering. So the onus is still on us. The ball is still in our court. Do we want to continue with this Zanu PF, delusional as it is? Or are we going to say enough is enough? Let's try another path. This is the question that I leave to each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a quick reminder to everybody that we will have the Saturday and Sunday evening programs open to the listeners to join in. The link is being shown at the bottom of your screen there. And we are using the same link all the Saturday and the Sunday. So as long as you've got that link, you can join us. And I hope you'll be able to join us one of these days and share the ideas. And to everybody else, thank you very much. Thanks to Ben and thanks to our administrator. Good night.